Thank you, James. James actually spoke on our Plan B summit last year, and I thought the story was inspiring then. And I love the idea that we use nature to heal nature. So I think that's a really exciting story. Um, how are we with Dr. Wright? Are we connected on the Zoom? Dr. Carl, I'll introduce you. And Dr. Carl Wright is the Secretary General Emeritus of the Commonwealth Local Government Forum, and he also chairs the Canterbury Climate Action Partnership, and he's coming to us through a Zoom link. Dr. Carl, over to you. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair, and thanks for inviting me. And let me start by complimenting KCC on the great work it's doing, not just on climate and the environment, but on sustainable development and meeting the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals more generally. And perhaps it's worth recalling that the OECD has said that of the 169 targets, very specific targets for sustainable development, which of course includes climate, at least 100 have to be implemented at the local level in order to be effective. So that immediately brings us to the role of KCC and local government more generally. But CCAP, the Canterbury Climate Action Partnership, which has existed about 2 years, and I have the honor of chairing, is a multi-stakeholder organization. And we organized what I think was the first ever Climate Action Week in Canterbury District just last week in the lead up to COP. We have a delegation, which I'll be leading up to COP, but we have some colleagues already up there. And then next week, Councillor Dan Watkins, I think, is with us, and Lisa Carlson from the Business Improvement District, and myself will be up at COP, particularly at the Cities Day, which is being organized on the 11th of November. So there's a lot of things happening. But let me just very briefly, I know it's the end of the afternoon and you're probably getting a little bit tired. So let me just make a brief overview of what came out of our Climate Action Week last week, which is say we were very excited about. And it was very much a multi-stakeholder exercise, to use the jargon. We worked with the Canterbury Festival, which coincided with our work. So we were very closely collaborating with the festival. We had an event at the Canterbury Cathedral with the Bishop of Dover, which was packed a good audience. And then really we had sort of 4 major categories which we were interacting with, working with, and which are part of our Canterbury Climate Action Partnership. And the emphasis, as you can see, is very much on action, but also on partnership. And I think what a message I'm trying to get to you perhaps this afternoon, at the end of a longish afternoon, is that it's absolutely essential to involve the wider community and the wider stakeholder groups if climate action is going to be effective, whether it's national or at local government level. And really the 4 groups, just to summarize very briefly, which we worked with extensively last week, were of course, no surprise, Canterbury City Council itself, which had some public meetings and distributed a lot of information. We worked in the lead up and the preparations quite a lot with the City Council. We also had our local MP, Rosie Duffield, coming along to our closing session. So we had our members of Parliament, we had the City Council, and clearly working with our elected local representative, you the councillors, is absolutely critical in getting the climate message implemented and getting action done. And it covers a whole range of things. I don't have to tell you: transport, energy, housing, biodiversity, all the things certainly at the city level, which are in our local plan. And we're very pleased that we are working with the City Council, particularly in its partnership, Climate Action Partnership Board, together with business, together with our universities and the NHS Trust. So there is a very good collaboration with the level of local government. Secondly, obviously we have the wide range of community groups, community, faith and youth groups, and they organized a very full day last week, again trying to attract not just the converted, as it were, but the general public, who really are the people we need to inform about climate change and the importance of what's going on. And we had a very full day of organizations. Very pleased that among others, the Kent Wildlife Trust we've just heard was present. Many other groups, Countryside Partnership, Kent Pond and Tree Wardens, Wildlife Trust, and many local organizations came together, and it was a tremendous networking day reaching out to the wider public. And of course, I mentioned already the Bishop of Dover and the Cathedral. Clearly, as Canterbury has the UNESCO special status, World Heritage status, we see our religious leaders playing a particular role in informing the public. Thirdly, the other key group, of course, is business. And we're very pleased that throughout the preparation of the Climate Action Week and the various events, we work very closely with Canterbury BID, Lisa Carlson, who's a member of our board. And we had a special set of meetings on Wednesday last week, which was organized by the Business Improvement District, bringing together local business leaders and entrepreneurs. And again, I think the message we really got out of this and the commitments we got is that a lot of local business is committed to affecting zero carbon and moving forwards. Clearly, it's going to be difficult in many cases if it's a small retailer or a restaurateur who's in an old medieval building in Canterbury. It's clearly not so easy to insulate, not so easy to install solar panels. So there are some real practical issues, but that's where our improvement district is working with its members, trying to help them move forward and deal with the issues around supply chains, around renewable, sustainable energy supplies and the like. So clearly the business community, as we've heard already from the Prime Minister and many others yesterday, Prince Charles, His Royal Highness, is going to be absolutely critical because they can marshal internationally trillions of pounds or dollars, but also locally, I think a lot can be done through businesses at Kent. While I recognize, being also a member of the University of Kent Business Advisory Committee on the MBA committee, I recognize that many businesses in Kent are small and medium enterprises, so their capacity is limited, but they can all collectively contribute towards that very important journey towards zero carbon. I'm very pleased that Canterbury, by the way, Canterbury City Council is looking now at a target of certainly 2030 for its own operations, but perhaps more importantly, 2045, not 2050, but 2045, 5 years earlier for district-wide, reaching the zero carbon. Let's hope we can perhaps even move faster with incentives, which will come out of the COP meeting in Glasgow. And clearly, the fourth group, after local government, business and community groups, are very much our youth and our students. In Canterbury, we have 3 universities, University of Kent, Christchurch, Creative Arts, quite a few colleges and many schools. So clearly they all need to be involved. And we had a number of events, both on campuses and around the district last week, which brought together the young people and the youth, which of course are very much essential. And we've all quoted already, I think, Greta Thunberg, that we don't want blah, blah, blah. We want to have real practical action. And what our commitment, which we approved last week, major stakeholders approved, really tries to do is to inform the public, is to engage the individual citizens, which are really the key people we have to influence, to show what practical things individuals can do, as well as the organizations I've already mentioned. And we're very familiar with all the things, ranging from very simple recycling, lifestyle changes around consumption, planting trees, avoiding pesticides, to more ambitious things like purchasing electric vehicles and looking at your green investments and making sure that your investment portfolio does support sustainable investments. So we're trying to work with all those key stakeholder groups to inform the public, and of course, particularly the low-income groups, which are the ones which will find the most challenges, as has already been said this afternoon, in installing heat pumps, in taking forward other things without the necessary financial and other support. So I think all those things, right, I'll finish then. Let me just say, in conclusion, thanks again for having me. And we will be having our own Canterbury Earthshot Climate Awards next year, 2022 Climate Awards. And we hope that Canterbury is going to be leading the way at COP and showcasing what we can do in Canterbury and Kent in Glasgow next week. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Carl. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of our conference. We have to foreshorten the questions because of the delays at the start. I apologize for that. But I'd like to thank you all for making what I think is an important moment for Kent. It showed us how wide is the task and how wide the answers that we're already giving. And for me, it's shown still more clearly what it takes. And it takes the COP26ers, and I hope they come good up the road in Glasgow. And it takes the farmers and the Too Clever by Half charging points and Kent's naturalists and the water people, Plan Tree, Plan B, and one day I hope Plan C in this very coastal county. And we've pulled in the finance people from CELEP and the politicians, even maybe the stuck-up protesters one day, and certainly the home insulators who are doing that job already. And such was the variety and such was the zeal that despite the gloom we hear daily, despite the weight of the crisis and the length of the struggle we face, I think there are grounds for some hope that we've been hearing here today, and that we can hold the line, but it takes all of us all the time, everywhere. Thank you very much indeed for coming.